Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be my review for the series premiere of Crossbones, Season 1, Episode 1, The Devil's Dominion. And I did not know too much about this show, I'm going to admit that right now. I didn't watch any trailers for this show, because I wanted to go in with an open mind. I was intrigued with the show, because I knew it was about pirates, and there aren't too many shows about pirates. The only other one I can think of is Black Sails, which I heard was awful. So I was hoping this would not be awful, because I heard John Malkovich was in it. He's a pretty good actor, so I was hopeful for this show. I was very hopeful. And as I said, I didn't watch any previews or anything. I was definitely I was looking forward to it, though. However, my complaint was that it was NBC. Now, if you guys know, NBC is my least favorite network, because, one, they canceled Smash, two, most of their shows are really bad, and they always cancel they cancel almost all of their new shows, so I was very concerned about this. However, how did Crossbones turn out? Crossbones is amazing. Like, seriously, it was amazing. I was not expecting it to be this good. I was expecting the show to be good, but not to the extent that this show was. I mean, seriously, this pilot was amazing. I loved everything about it, and I'm really looking forward to the next episode. I gotta say, this is probably going to be NBC's saving grace, because they had 3 shows that premiered this week. The first one was The Night Shift, which, was a doctor medical drama. The second one, was Undateable, which was a very funny comedy, which I do think I'm going to check out. I might check out at some point. And then there was Crossbones. And Crossbones, I think, is definitely going to be their saving grace, definitely. So, let's just get into it. Right away, what I really liked about this pilot was they started off with kind of like a story of telling us, where we are, kind of like some historical facts, because it is based on a true story. So basically, we see these schooners, they're sailing in the high seas, and the British soldiers are in their red coats, and they're training. So many British ships were lost to pirates, starvation, and storms in the era of the British Empire's mightiest moments. So, in 1712, the Crown offered a reward to anyone that could invent a device to help them navigate the seas, more precisely to expand the Crown's rule over the world and protect them from the terrors of piracy. So the HMS Petrel is bound for England, and as I say, I like that they did that because it set the tone for where we were. They see a pirate ship in the distance, and they know they can't outrun it. So they know they can't outrun it, and they take a hard turn, and the men grab weapons. The device is ticking in the captain's chamber, and a surgeon, Tom Lowe, he's essentially our main character. So, he is working on Gad, and he cuts into him, and bloody pirate rabble cheers on the deck of the other ship. And right away, a lot of intense shit is going down, which I really love, because we're 2 minutes into the episode, it's already really intense, and I knew this show is going to be a really intense show, and it really was from this episode. Because the cannons are booming, the surgeons are panicking, and he says we're dead. The surgeon tells his assistant to finish up and goes topside. The pirates board the other ship. The doctor tells the man to fire and heads up into the fray, shooting pirates as he goes. And then we meet a she-pirate, Nena, who is taking redcoats down left and right. She stabs and slices Ryder. Another pirate fights at her side, and they are a killing machine. So Lowe heads back into the ship, and she and Ryder follow, and Lowe tells the navigator Nightingale to let him in. He does. He takes Nightingale's gun, blows apart the navigational device, sets fire to his journal, and he says the pirates have been stalking them because they know Nightingale is on board, and he says he won't tell them anything, but Lowe says he will because they will torture it out of him. So, surprisingly, he then kills Nightingale with fast-acting poison. He says, I'm sorry, I have to do this, and he kills him. I was surprised to kill him with poison. I thought he would probably just, kill him, because, you have a sword and things like that, but I thought it was kind of interesting that he killed him with poison. It kind of shows his character, that he wouldn't do that sort of thing. So, he then tells them to save the guy and says he can't. They put knives to his face, and he says he will do what he can. He told them he was a ship's doctor. So he's trying to treat Nightingale, but he looks very unsalvageable, basically that he's not going to make, because his mouth is black with the signs of poison, and the pirates are cleaning up the docks, and they're tossing over bodies, and then we find out how exactly, Tom got there. So, 8 weeks early in Port Royal, Jamaica, the Caribbean center of the British Empire, Tom heads into the building. He goes to see William Jagger, and he asks if Tom knows about his next mission. He shows him the navigation device, a chronometer, which is a very complex device. Jagger says it let a ship precisely calculate its location at sea, And Jagger says it's one of a kind and that Lowe will travel it to London disguised as a ship surgeon. So yeah, he's not really a doctor. This is sort of just his, persona of what he has to pretend to be if he wants to survive. So he's told his assignment is to eliminate Blackbeard. That is what he was sent to do, and that's what he has to do. He has to eliminate Blackbeard. And Lowe says he's dead and reminds him that Jagger killed him himself. And Jagger says he was mistaken and says he's alive and hiding out. And basically, he thought that Jagger killed him, but he didn't. He's actually, hiding out. And Jagger says Blackbeard will come for the chronomere, and then they can kill him. So Lowe says it will be his honor. He's to escort and protect Nightingale and the device and make sure it doesn't fall into the pirates' hands. So that's basically where we were. So now they've caught us up to where we were. So then we go back into the present, and we see that Lowe is looking around the ship, and Fletch asks him where they are, and Lowe says they're in the Devil's Dominum, which is an island. So basically, that's where this show is going to take place, is on this island. So at the docks on the island, we meet Kate, who orders the pirates to sort the goods taken from the British ship into what they can use, sell, and what's worthless. They go to work, and Lowe greets her, and she notes that he's in shackles. She asks who he is, and he says he's at her service, and Fletch says he's never seen a woman like her. And Lowe says she's wanted for high treason and is very notorious. So they're brought into the busy main part of the island. Fletch says this is the kingdom of a madman, and Lowe tells him to hold his tongue or lose it. Ryder and Nenna show Selma the remnants of Nightingale's journal and the broken device. So basically, they march up to the main house, and guess where they meet? They meet Blackbeard. Here's where we are introduced to Blackbeard, and what an intro to Blackbeard! Like seriously, what an intro to him. Because he stands there and he says, "Allow me to introduce myself." He slits a prisoner's throat. The men watch, and the man bleeds out on the floor. Lowe grabs a gun and candle to burn the man's knife wound. And Lowe says he's Blackbeard, and the pirate tells him they don't use that name here. It's not right. It's illegal. He asks what drove Lowe to being a surgeon, and he says the mechanism of the human body. And this is actually really interesting, this conversation. He asks Lowe if he believes in God, and he says he fears him, but he doesn't love God. Blackbeard says that's a great answer. And right away we can see that John Malkovich is great as Blackbeard. I mean, I'm going to say that right now. John Malkovich is just, wow. He is fantastic as Blackbeard. Just great. And he says he fears him but doesn't love God. Blackbeard says that's a great answer, and Blackbeard wants him to call him Commodore. And Lowe says it is said that he's a devil that feasts on children. And Blackbeard says that he thinks God is a clockmaker who made the world and wound up creation, and then is watching us unwind without helping or caring. So Lowe says that's a very cold theory, and he tells Lowe that he isn't the devil but has cast the devil out, the government of the British. Lowe says he's not the king, and Blackbeard says there is no king there, that he serves at the pleasure of the people. And he tells Lowe that Nightingale had knowledge he wanted, and his attempted suicide is very troublesome. So yeah, he's made it look like Nightingale tried to kill himself. That's what he made it look like. And he tells Lowe that the inventor's permission to die has been denied, and that he will visit hell on Lowe if he lets him die. He says if the man dies, Lowe will be begging for death but won't be granted. He tells him that not all the scary legends about him are untrue. So basically what Blackbeard is saying is, if you don't let him live, then shit will come to you, and it's not going to be good. Death will come, and it's not going to be good. So Jagger then gets word that the ship Lowe is on is taken. He's got a pirate strung up by a noose, slowly loosing his wife. Jagger says he can help him if he will ask for help. He asks where Blackbeard is, and the man is choking when Jagger runs him through and wishes him a swift journey to hell. So Lowe and Fletch are shown to the room where Nightingale is. Lowe says he has to keep him alive, and Fletch realizes that Lowe isn't really a doctor. He realizes that this is just him, this is what he had to pretend to be, and that he honestly has no idea what he's doing, which, he doesn't. He doesn't know what he's doing, so, I mean, that's a pretty big thing there, that he doesn't really know what he's doing. So Selma tells Blackbeard she thinks the Cipher can be broken. She warns him that the British fleet will come for the device and the inventor, and Blackbeard tells her to figure out how to unlock the Cipher. He says she has a mind for puzzles and is beautiful, but smarter still, and he tells her she can do it. So Blackbeard consults a globe, traces his finger along a line of islands. He hears whispers, goes to the window. He opens the blinds and sees a floating dead woman in a white gown there, and he's terrified. So yeah, we do see that he is scared of something. So that's good, because it kind of makes us care more for him. So he then consults a globe, traces his finger along a line of islands, and he hears whispers. He goes to his window, opens... I just read that. Lowe watches over Nightingale, sees Kate swimming in the ocean outside the window, and Ryder sits in his chair in the room and watches Lowe. And then we meet Kate's husband, James, who he is actually paralyzed, and that's kind of sad, so that was interesting. So Nightingale, at this point, he's not looking good, and, he's probably going to die any second. So Lowe tells Ryder that nothing has changed, and he says he needs more supplies to treat him, and Ryder asks what he needs. He takes Lowe to a market, and he tells Kate he needs water, salt, and vessels to heat the water in. He also needs ashes, burnt leather, castor oil, leeches, and a bunch of other things. And Kate asks if he has money, and he says his ship was raided by pirates, and she demands 80 pounds, and he says he's lucky to have his teeth after the piracy. He says it's usury, and she says she doesn't think he will live long enough to repay her. Lowe and Ryder come back, find Nightingale dead. Obviously, this is not good, because Blackbeard said you have to keep him alive, so Ryder asks how long he's been dead. Lowe and Ryder struggle. Lowe locks him out of the room. They bar the door with Nightingale's dead body. And you know what? I actually loved it that they killed off Nightingale, because when a show kills off a really big character that could have been really big in the first episode, that's awesome. I love it when a show does that, because it just shows the balls that the show has. I mean, the show has a lot of balls to do that. Like, seriously, it does. And by doing that, I mean, it really just makes the show so much more intense. It really does, because Lowe looks in the man's mouth, and he says he's looking for a way to save them. He finds something in the man's clothing as the pirates rush in. Lowe has a candle, holds the item to it, and tells him that to get the Commodores or he'll destroy what he wants. So Blackbeard then shows up and says he's heard Nightingale has died, and he asks what's in Lowe's hand. He says it's the key to the Cipher, and Blackbeard asks what will stop him from killing him, and after he gives up the Cipher. Lowe burns it, and Blackbeard asks how that saves him. Lowe says he has memorized the Cipher key and says for his life, he'll decide the journal for him. And Blackbeard asks if he would betray his king for more time on Earth, and Lowe says he absolutely would. And Blackbeard tells him that he has something of a pirate in him and says he can come and bring his monkey Fletch. So basically, Lowe is kind of the guy that does the dirty work for Blackbeard, when really he's trying to kill Blackbeard. He wants to make it seem like he's on Blackbeard's side, and he's going to do the dirty work for him, while Blackbeard tells him what to do, when really Lowe is trying to kill Blackbeard. So it's really interesting here, and I really do like that. So he takes him to a chamber, and Selmia tells Lowe that if he provides a false translation, she will know. They lock them there. Fletch asks if Blackbeard will keep him alive until he translates it, and says the chronometer will put an end to piracy. Why does Blackbeard want it? Lowe says he doesn't know. And Fletch says they should just burn the book and run away. And Fletch says he doesn't want to be tortured or called a monkey. And Lowe tells him that their work is done and much to think about. And Lowe tells him he has an assigned mission to kill Blackbeard, bring his head to making governor. And he finally tells Fletch why they're there. And Fletch asks why they don't kill him and go. And Lowe tells him to quiet down. He says he needs time and access to certain materials. He can't just kill him yet, because he needs to get closer to Blackbeard and then kill him, which honestly is an ingenious plan. That's great right there. And then out of nowhere, all these pirates just burst in, give them a really big beatdown. Selmy and Ryder come in. She says that the Cipher is very formidable and says she knows the nature of the Cipher, and she says that it's complex and only relies on one keyword. And he says if he gives her the keyword, she can decipher, and he reminds her that it means his death. So the men hold his mouth open, stick a rag in it. Ryder approaches, starts to burn his hand. Fletcher runs out, bursts into Blackbeard's chamber, and tells him that if the pirates are torturing Lowe and may kill him, Blackbeard walks in and asks Selmia if he asks to torture him. She says she did not know. Ryder says he was about to tell them, and Blackbeard says that's likely not what was about to happen. So Blackbeard tells Lowe to take a morning lion and that he's got a loyal fellow in Fletch. The pirates give him a beatdown on their way out. Lowe and Blackbeard walk on the beach, and he says Selmia thinks it will be easier to torture the information out of him. So then we see Kate, and they're both really, you can definitely see they both are attracted to her. She's coming out of the water, she's naked, and she wraps a blanket around herself. She asks if he swims, and he says only once, and it nearly killed him. And she says doing it naked is better, and she tells Blackbeard that she'll have the accounting from petrol to him later. So Kate comes in, and James asks about Lowe. And she tells him that Lowe and Blackbeard are sharks circling, because obviously, she can see she's got something going on with Lowe. Is there possibly like a relationship there? And she told him that Lowe and Blackbeard are sharks circling each other. She asks how his pain is, and says he cried on his sleep. No word, just sounds. And Blackbeard tells Lowe that Selmia is treacherous to the core, and he doesn't want her to be right and him wrong. Blackbeard says that you can't really torture a man until you really know him and his fears, which is true. So that he has a good point there. So Blackbeard tells him that if he disappoints him, he will string up Fletch and torment him mightily. He says he will flay him slowly and visits hells upon him and will let everyone know that Lowe is solely responsible for what happens to the little guy. And Blackbeard says he believes this will be the most effective way to torture Lowe. And, I mean, that's a pretty big thing, because obviously Lowe doesn't want this. So, Fletch and Lowe then have this conversation, and Fletch admits to Lowe that he hates it here, and Lowe says he does too, and he says, we're going to kill Blackbeard tonight, which basically he's saying is that, I'm sick of being here, you know, the reason I'm here is to kill Blackbeard, let's just get it over with, and then we can leave. So, Fletch and Lowe work when a pirate servant brings in a tray of refreshments. Lowe thanks him, and the guy glares and leaves, locking them in again. And as he goes, they go back to work on the windows. Lowe is trying to pick a padlock and says they need to get to the quartermaster's warehouse. He creeps out the window and he leaves Fletch there. So then we get a really interesting scene here, because Lowe sneaks around, sees an empty hammock, he steals it to climb down, but a guy sees him from below, calls out, and Lowe gives up the climb, just leaps onto the guy, chokes him to death, kicks the body off the cliff into the sea. And then Blackbeard is studying a diagram of the body's nervous system and rubs his head, so that's kind of interesting. So, Lowe hides the pirate and comes by with some horse. He peeks into Kate's window and sees her husband smoking opium, so that's obviously not good. And he sneaks into the room, and James is very high at this point, walks around the room, sees Kate asleep in the bed, looks down at her, kneels by her bedside, reaches under a pillow to take her keys, and he sneaks out of the room. Lowe has a lantern, goes into the storehouse, searches around some chests, and then opens one. And Kate comes in and asks if he's lost something. She's very, not really sure what's going on. And he says he had something hidden in it. She has a photo of his wife and asks if that is what he was after. He says she can't have the keys back, but the cameo is his. She hands it over and tells him good night. He leaves the storeroom, makes it back into the room, knocks back some whiskey, and he opens up the cameo, and Fletch asks if it's his wife. And Lowe says he doesn't have a wife, and the image could be of a whore for all he knows. So he just lied to Kate, obviously. He slides open the side and pulls out a capsule. He says it's Blackbeard's death. He goes to see Blackbeard, who tells him that he has headaches, and Lowe asks his symptoms and if the headaches are accompanied by visions, which this is kind of interesting that they were talking about the visions, because I was wondering if, when they were talking about the visions, if we're going to actually see these visions eventually. And Blackbeard says on occasion, but he won't describe the visions to him, and I'm wondering if he's eventually going to. So he shows Lowe a Chinese scroll that he used to help himself. Selmia wraps up something and tells Lena to deliver it to the Spaniard and says no one must know. So Lena says no one will. So Lowe gives up the scroll and says this is how much he has deciphered, and he says to Blackbeard that if he gives him the key to the cipher, the work can be done more rapidly in days. He says if he will promise to spare Fletch, he will provide it and throw himself on his mercy. He hands over a paper that says Blackbeard must die, and Lowe says he didn't devise the cipher, and that he inspires fear in those who did. Remember, he wants to kill Blackbeard at this point, so we're trying to figure out where exactly is he going with this, you know. He then asks Blackbeard if he will drink to their deal and seal it like Englishmen, and Blackbeard takes a goblet, holds it up, they drink to the cipher key, and the cipher key says Blackbeard must die. They both drink, Blackbeard sits back down, says to show him how the key works, and then they can talk about Lowe's faith, and Lowe leaves him. So Blackbeard flips through some papers. So Lowe is escorted back to his chamber, and then we find out that the edges of the papers that he gave Blackbeard have been poisoned. Blackbeard licks his finger, turns the page, exposing himself to the poison. So I thought that was a really big thing there, because of the fact that, it's an ingenious plan. I thought he was just going to, shoot him or kill him or something. I didn't know what he was going to do, but poisoning him, that's probably the best thing he could have done, because, he had no idea about it. So, Lowe says he thinks they ought to, Fletch asks if they can go, and Lowe says they ought to because they think they just killed him, so they think they're good. So they head down to the beach, they find a very small boat, and he sees Alvarado, a man of Spain, says that the pirates are conspiring with the Spanish. He says they can't leave and says he has to save Blackbeard. And Selmy comes in and finds Blackbeard on the floor very sick. She tells the pirate to bring the doctor. Lowe has the antidote, try to break the door down, and he basically realizing he can't kill Blackbeard right now. It's not the right thing to do. Blackbeard speaks Lowe's name, and she tells the pirate that Blackbeard is accusing him, not summoning him. She says that he needs to kill Lowe. Lowe comes in and says he can help him, and he says that Blackbeard has the failing sickness and says he can save him. He asks her to trust him, and she shoots him instead. He gets her gun, threatens her away, holds the gun to Blackbeard's head as the pirates burst in. Just really intense scene right here. I really love the scene, the way this was done. Tells them to stop and administrates the antidote. He tells the pirates to wait, and Blackbeard chokes back to life, so he's alive. So, Lowe slumps over from his gunshot wound, and Blackbeard's first words are, "Fine fellow, excellent fellow," and they lie on the floor. So, Lowe then walks on the beach, pulls off his shirt, and he wades into the water where Kate is swimming, dives in, swims near her, and Blackbeard asks James if he can rebuild the chronometer, and he says he thinks he can. Blackbeard tells him that either Lowe saved his life or tried to kill him, then changed his mind and tried to save him, while his fellows were prepared simply to avenge him. So, he has to try to find out, what exactly to do. Did he try to kill him, or did he save his life? And I think that's going to be a really big thing, because he doesn't know if he can trust, Lowe. He doesn't know if he can trust Tom or not. So, James asks what this makes Lowe, and Blackbeard says there's sea. But then he looks outside, and he sees Kate swimming with Lowe, and his eyes narrow, because not only does he like Kate, he knows that James is Kate's husband, obviously. So, I don't know what he's going to do, but somehow he's going to use this against Lowe, because that music just proves how it's going to end. And wow. What an ending. What a show. And just seriously, this was such a good pilot. I love this pilot. Am I the only one that thinks this pilot was exactly like Game of Thrones? I don't know why. I feel like this show is like Game of Thrones in a way. Just because it's like, it's kind of like Game of Thrones just because of the way it's done. I don't know why. I just feel that way. But let me just say that, before we get to, the end of this video, I do have to talk about the acting in the show. The thing that makes this show so good is the acting. The acting in the show is so, so good. John Malkovich, he is perfect as Blackbeard. Like, I couldn't think of anyone else to play Blackbeard. The moment he came onto the screen, I'm like, this guy's going to be good. This guy's going to give a great performance as Blackbeard, and this is probably going to be one of John Malkovich's best performances. And I think he does a great job as Blackbeard, and I can't wait to see what else he does on the show. Richard Coyle as Tom Lowe, he was great. I thought he did a really great job, and I really enjoyed his scenes overall. And then you have Selmia. She was good too. Nothing else with the other characters. I did like Chris Perfetti as Fletch. I thought he was a good sidekick to Tom. We'll have to see what happens there, but basically, in this show, I do think that eventually Blackbeard's going to get it. And you know when I think he's going to get it? Next episode, because the third episode is called The Man Who Killed Blackbeard. So, we'll have to see what happens there. But overall, I really enjoyed the show. I thought this was an amazing pilot. I can't wait for the rest of the episodes. I did not expect the show to be this good, but it really was fantastic. And I really did love the show. So yeah, that's in my review of Crossbones. Let me know what you guys thought about the show. As I said, I think the show is going to be the saving grace for NBC. Also, we saw a clip in the trailer. I don't know where this is going, but Blackbeard's going to propose to Kate. I don't know how that's going to happen, but he's going to propose to Kate, and we're going to have to see what happens there. But that's my review. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for Orphan Black. So, see you then. Bye.